Hello ladies and gentlemen, this is Blue Maxima. Let me talk to you for a little bit about Forza Horizon 5. This is admittedly my first serious Forza Horizon game. I did play a little bit of 3, but it was like an hour, so I don't really think that counts so much. I've been playing this one for a fair bit longer. It's like 4 hours going on 5 at this point, so I'd like to think I have a decent grasp of what the game is. And what the game is a car sandbox. You have 500 cars you can collect, and you go around doing races, leveling up, and earning yourself credits, XP, and wheel spins, which will get you cars, and more events to do, and, well, money that you can spend on cars. And you buy cars, you do them up however you want, and you take them into whatever races you want. You can drive any car on any track. They might not recommend it, but they let you do it, and they will always put, like, a set of opponents that are in relatively similar cars, so that it really just comes down to a test of driving skill. Although when you're playing solo, it's mainly their drivatars, although if I'm honest with you, I'd be lying if I said I noticed any real personality from the drivatars. And they tend to stick you with the same drivatars that throughout your gaming sessions. I've come back to this one over the course of like 3 days, and every day I've always been facing the same ones. But that's basically it. You get like an hour on rails where they put you through a few set piece laden things, events, what have you, and then they ask you to unlock a certain set of events, and then by the time you've unlocked all the events by doing one in each kind, you are basically free to do what you want. There's very little in the way of a proper progression system, quote unquote. You get cars, you do what you want to them, and you drive them around. And to be fair, I do appreciate this level of freedom, and it extends really far. Like as I said, any car on any track, they'll let you do it. And you can do any events that you want. You can just drive around the open world looking for billboards to smash or for speed traps to go past. You can hop straight into the multiplayer, and even if you don't have a car that'll stand up to the rest of the cars, they'll give you one that works really well and will still let you be competitive. So that's great. You can still, of course, bring along your own car, but they give you one that's actually competitive, looking at you, Burnout Paradise. And even then, it's like, what kind of multiplayer do you want? Do you want serious racing? Do you want some drifting? Do you want ridiculous playground games like King of the Hill, Capture the Flag, Infection? Do you want to play a Battle Royale mode, which admittedly I didn't really like? It was just drop in with a Volkswagen Beetle, look around for another car, never find one, get beaten by someone who actually did manage to find a car, rinse and repeat. But yes, there is genuinely an absolute ton of freedom in Forza Horizon 5. And that's great, but personally, for me, I kind of need a little bit more progression than that. Once you're 2 hours in and you've unlocked every event, you've got basically everything you're going to get, and the rest of it is just filling out your virtual garage and trying out as many cars as possible. And admittedly, that kind of made me fall off the game a bit, but this is more to my personal tastes. If you're looking for a game which will let you get a ridiculous amount of cars, do whatever you want to them, and then drive them anywhere that you want, race them on any track that you want, why the hell haven't you bought this yet? It'll be right up your alley. And that freedom really does extend out. It's not just like driving any car on any track. It's changing the settings of like the physics system to make things a little bit easier or harder on yourself. And when you manage to get it just right, and you can start earning a massive amount of points by chaining together high speed, good drifts, crashing into some stuff, doing some really cool passing, and everything in between, it gets really satisfying to drive around in this game from time to time. There isn't that much difference between the cars, but you will be able to tell the difference between a supercar and a four-wheel drive with like 50 horsepower in it. It's not completely not there, and it's also quite the driving experience. I'm playing this on PC. Notably, the DualSense controllers don't work at all. Like, they can't even be mapped like a 360 controller. They just don't work, which is really frustrating. I would have liked to play this on my DualSense, but thankfully I had an Xbox One controller lying around, just FYI. you need that controller. You absolutely need to be able to only go like half press or half press on accelerate or brake. Because driving in this game can be a little bit rough. I'm just warning you right now, you need to get used to only putting down on the accelerator a little bit, only putting down on the brake a little bit. But once you figure it out, it can be a pretty damn satisfying experience. And figuring out what cars you like and deciding whether or not you want to stick with them is an interesting concept, because the more experience that you earn with any particular car, the better they actually get at scoring points, which is a neat touch. It's also worth noting that you can also earn things like extra wheel spins for more cars and credits, and extra XP and stuff just from driving cars around. So even just driving cars for a little bit is like, hey, you get a little bit of a reward for trying out a new car. That's pretty cool. I like that. And yeah, it is that even just on top of having all of those things to do, the user-generated content side of things is also ridiculous as well. Whether it be painting the entire car from top to bottom, painting just individual stickers or liveries and just using them, tuning cars up in very specific ways to make them drive differently, making unique races and challenges out in the game itself, and even being able to like go up against some of those player-created challenges and being like, hey, if you manage to get 7 of those done, you will earn some really nice rewards. These are all just baked into the game from the very beginning. So while it doesn't have much of a tower to climb, it's got a huge, wide open expanse of options. Do you want to just race cars all the time? Do you want to just paint cars all the time? Do you just want to flip cars on the in-game auction house to try and get as much credits as possible, which is a thing for some reason? You can do all of those things. And yeah, as a car sandbox, it works. But there are some things, admittedly, that I don't like about it. And the first one is the open world itself. It has no soul. It looks really good. It's got some great environmental detail. The skyboxes are fabulous. The car models are fantastic. But the open world itself just has absolutely no soul. A lot of it feels copy and pasted. A lot of it feels, I don't want to say detailless, because in the absolute mechanical sense, there is an absolute ton of detail in this game, whether it be the buildings, the textures, the effects, but there's just nothing that really stands out about it. I still remember driving through Paradise City, and I still remember a bunch of the way the streets are laid out. I remember some of the very specific landmarks. I remember I can just close my eyes and picture driving from one end of Paradise City to the other, just because of the way its open world was designed. But with Forza Horizon, I've been to an absolute ton of the map, not all of it. It says I've been to about 42 locations out of 56, but I barely remember anything about it. All I can realistically say is there was a lot of yellow, a lot of green, sometimes there's some buildings, and even then, like, there's just this lack of detail that feels weird. Like, in one of the cities that you're going through, there's like this underground tunnel that you can drive through, and there's like, they're perfectly clean, and it's exactly the same archway, like 100 times over, and it feels like it's just been endlessly copied and pasted, and a lot of this game feels exactly the same way. There are things like billboards and like PR events that you can do, like these huge jumps and what have you, and there are like special locations you can visit, like the stadium in the middle of the map, the airfield up to the north, a couple of other things down to the south, right? So it's not like it's completely lacking in special areas to go to, but even they just feel like I'm struggling to remember like the layout of any one of those particular areas right now. Sure, you might have a better time of it when you're like 90 hours in, but I can't say I find this open world that engaging. And as a result, I don't really find myself having anywhere to go. Just go to the next event, trigger it, and play. With that said, my phone just went off. With that said, there is a story, but I put very big finger quotes around the word story, because it really is just a big excuse to get you into different cars and driving those different cars around, and it's fine. I genuinely thought it was going to be some cringe-worthy social influence bullshit, like the sort of thing that, what's-her-face? Ubisoft put into all of their titles, you know? But in this case, it's genuinely not too bad. There are a couple of cringeworthy moments, and if I had one major complaint about all of the characters and the way that they talk, it's that it feels like they're putting on the happiness a bit too much. Just a little bit. Like, they're trying a little bit too hard to be really happy about the fact that they're getting to drive across this countryside and what have you. Despite the fact that chances are these people have already been there for a while, they've already made all these trips and whatnot, you know? But it's tolerable. They don't go so far as to throw in memes or references or anything like that. They basically just talk a lot about cars. And I don't have a problem with that. I really don't. It makes sense. It's Forza Horizon. Of course they're going to be talking about cars. So I can at least say that, yeah, it's not cringeworthy. The story is not cringeworthy. And when they do drop you into one of the really big Horizon showcase events, where it's this massive scene of, like, driving out of the back of a cargo plane, or racing against a freight train, or coming down from the top of an active volcano and jumping into an ongoing Baja race, it's all actually really enjoyable. Admittedly, I do kind of wish if they were going for this whole freedom thing that they would have given me just a little bit more options, like, hey, press one button to skip the intro of the game, unlock all the events, give me all the cars I would have earned, and just let me go to town. But, okay, like, I guess you have to treat every Horizon game like it's someone's first Horizon game. It's not like they could have figured it out. The game is relatively well laid out, and it doesn't, like, throw constant notifications and stuff in your face all the time about certain things happening here, there, and everywhere. They'll tell you once or twice, and then they'll just get out of the way. Which, admittedly, I appreciate, because they've got, like, a whole season pass thing going on, where it refreshes every few months with new events to do, new cars to unlock, and what have you. But at the same time, you log in, they show you that stuff once, and then they just let you go? They don't constantly prompt you about some season XP. If you just, per chance, happen to do a thing that unlocks something along the lines of that challenge event, they just tell you in a little notification down the bottom, and then they just let you get back to your business. And admittedly, I appreciate that a hell of a lot more than I do something like any other season pass in almost any other game that I've ever played, because it's just reasonable. It's genuinely just reasonable. And I like it. I think it's praiseworthy. Although, admittedly, I am still kind of annoyed that you still have to buy, like, a VIP pass in order to get all of the cars. It would be neat if there was, like, you know, these cars cost, like, 10 million credits. But if you're on the season pass, you get them immediately. I don't know if that's how that works in Horizon. But when they prompt you to, like, buy the car pass in order to get the cars and don't really specify that, hey, these are also unlockable throughout the game, you just can't help but think, well, they're probably not available outside of that. So, yeah. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I like Forza Horizon 5. I think it's a good game. The freedom of the car sandbox is really good. Just the amount that you're able to do, and how early you're able to do it, and how you can specialize into anything you want, and how the game won't try and force you down one track after you've gotten through, like, the first couple of hours. is genuinely something. It's really well done. The driving model is good. I enjoy driving in this game, although you absolutely do need a controller. The overwhelming freedom is great. And it's absolutely the best part of the game, but at the same time, it's also not so much the worst part of the game for me, but absolutely a bit of a letdown. Just because unless you're into collecting 400 different kinds of cars in your collection and scouring auction houses and earning millions upon millions of credits in order to fill that out, or if you can just find satisfaction in getting a few cars that you like, tuning them to the hilt, and then tackling the entire game with them, if you find satisfaction in that, all the more power to you. Pick this up, you'll love it. But for me personally, it doesn't appeal. The story is not entirely cringeworthy, although it does feel a bit put on. And the open world is entirely unmemorable. It's there just to put you into cars and get you racing. And you can argue the same thing with the story itself. I'm personally not going to play it again, probably, because unless I can find some reason to go for a specific car and then drive that car around, I don't see any reason to play it personally. But if anything I just said sounds appealing to you, buying an absolute ton of cars, unlocking and earning a ton of cars, whether it be through wheel spins. I actually like wheel spins in this game because it's just stuff. Like, hey, you got a certain amount of XP. Here's a car. Here's some money. Here's a piece of customizable equipment for your main character. That's fine. It's just the other Horizon that makes it... It's just the other motorsport one that makes it a problem. But yeah, if that sounds appealing to you, just driving around this world, earning a bunch of cars, doing them up how you want in both paint and undercarriage, and just going for it in anything you like, whether it be nothing but street races, whether it be a little bit of everything, whether it be one particular car on a course that it's meant for, on a course it's definitely not meant for, whether it be just painting these cars however you like and sharing them online, giving them decals, giving them tune-ups, whether it be just getting the game, ignoring the single player entirely as soon as it lets you, and hopping straight into the multiplayer with the one rented car and just doing that as much as you like. Go. You'll love it. And the PC version runs pretty damn well. It automatically defaulted me to Ultra, but I turned down the shadows a bit, and I turned down a couple of other things as well. It's immensely customizable in terms of pretty much every setting you can imagine, and it runs great. So really, I've got nothing else to say about it, except I'm not into it, but I recognize that it's pretty damn good. So feel free to pick it up and give it a whirl if any of this sounded even remotely interesting to you. Just make sure you've got a controller in hand if you pick up the PC version like I did. This has been Blue Maxima. Oh yeah, I don't care about the music. I tried listening to a few of the radio stations and it just became background noise. Hell, after a point I just turned off the radio and started listening to Eurobeat the entire time. Honestly, I think that works better as a soundtrack. Maybe one day we will get the initial D game we deserve over here. Yeah, with that said, this has been Blue Maxima. I'll see you all next time.